And I said, "Hey, Dr. Dobler, should I call my kids?" Just tongue in cheek, just trying to get a funny. And I thought for sure he'd be like, "Greg, you're going to be okay." He goes, "Yes, Greg." He said, "You have very little chance to survive."
Well, today's interview with Greg Hershberg was very powerful and very powerful for me to listen to the story that was behind it.
I was getting into my later years. I have four children. The last one graduated college. I started a little late in the game, and my wife and I were talking about slowing down. The hardest thing about ministry for me was the woes of the people. And it was getting to me. So we were thinking about maybe we'll walk away. I'm turning 65. I don't really want to walk away totally. I'm always going to share the gospel, but walk away from pastoral ministry. So we went away to St. Louis and had a nice weekend. We were going to see a comedian, actually, Jerry Seinfeld, because he's a contemporary of mine. He's a Queens Jew. I'm a Bronx Jew. We were raised the same way with the same culture, and I find his comedy clean and brilliant, to say the least. And I like to laugh. Laughter is good medicine. I like to take my meds. And we went, and it didn't turn out so good. I was really sick while I was there, and I knew something was radically wrong. And I'm no stranger to sickness because I've had 8 aneurysms. I have a connective tissue disorder. So I get aneurysms. So they got to keep putting in these stents and doing these major surgeries. So I've been having major surgeries for the last 20 years. But this was bad. I had fainted. I begged them to get me on the plane. They said, "It's not protocol. We got to take you to the hospital." I said, "Please, please. I have doctors in Macon, Georgia. Please, I'm begging you. Please. I'll be okay." Got in a wheelchair, got on the plane, got another wheelchair, got home. Called a friend of mine who's an ER doctor, and he said, "Come on in." Went in, and he said, "You have a blood staph infection." Okay. Okay. I
Whoa.
heard infection. I heard infection. So I was like, "Okay. What does that mean? Antibiotics?" "Okay. Thanks, Dr. Rios." And he said, "No, not exactly, Greg. Um, 20% of people die from blood staph." And I'm pretty good with numbers. So I was like, "That's 1 out of 5. That's not good." And so he said, "I'm going to have to admit you, and we're going to send out cultures to see what it's resistant to. But in the meantime, we have to give you a very strong antibiotic because we can't risk it. You could die." So they gave me vancomycin, and my kidneys decided they didn't like vancomycin, so they totally, completely shut down.
Hmm.
So now I'm swelling up, turning yellow. I can't urinate. I got blood staph, and I'm thinking, I was just in St. Louis. We had this great weekend. We were talking about stepping away. Everything was looking up. I finally got to a place in my life where the four kids were raised, and maybe I could have a life. Maybe I could just be with Bernadette. Maybe we could just enjoy the fruits of our labor. No big deal. Just enjoy each other. Take a walk on the beach holding hands. And I'm in the hospital, and I'm like, okay. Now I'm on dialysis. That was horrible. I've got all these machines plugged into me. And then a doctor walks in, he says, "I looked at your medical records. You have stents all over your arteries." I said, "Yeah, yes, sir." And he said, "Do you know the blood staph seats itself in stents?" And I
Really?
said, "Yeah." And I said, "What does that mean?" He goes, "Well, we think we need to send you to Emory where you had all your surgeries done." So Thanksgiving, I mean, I get emotional, and I'm a very emotional guy. Pastor recently said to me, "I'm 30 years, I've never cried in the pulpit. I'm 30 years and I've never not cried in the pulpit. Never not. Every single sermon, there's a time where I shed a tear. Something hits me." I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't. Thanksgiving, all my kids were coming in. I'm very, very close to my kids. I don't do too many things well, but I was a great dad because I determined to be a great dad because I lost my father when I was young. I was concerned that they might lose me too with all that I've been through. So I wanted to leave them with great memories. So every day I took them out to the park every day. And every morning we had a little Bible study. Even when I was away, we did it. And every night we had dinner together. I didn't pride myself, but I was a good dad, and they are very close to me. They really, really, really love me. And I was just thinking Thanksgiving, we don't watch football, but we're under the table. We're loud. We're having fun. We're laughing. We're loving. And I'm in the back of an ambulance going to Emory. And I was just back there going, "God, what happened?" You know, it's not dramatic. It's not like, "Oh, you're crying or screaming." You're kind of numb. You're kind of comfortably numb. And you're like, "What happened?" I get up to Emory. My doctor sees me there and he said, Greg, I don't know what we have to do, but we have to completely open you up. And I've been opened up before. It's nasty. They open you up from your sternum down to your symphysis pubis. They pull you apart. They remove you. And he said to me one night in ICU, very learned man, Harvard, best trained doctor, top vascular surgeon in the nation, very stoic. And I said, hey, Dr. Dobler, should I call my kids? Just tongue in cheek, just trying to get a funny. And I thought for sure he'd be like, Greg, you're going to be okay. He goes, yes, Greg. He said, you have very little chance to survive. And the worst night of my life was when I had to call my kids and say goodbye and tell them my last words. I called my first son, who were inseparable. And I said, Jay, it doesn't look good for Dad, but I want you to know that you never caused me a problem. Not one day. Never. Every time I was with you, I felt 10 feet tall. And he said, Dad, I don't lie to you. I want to tell you something. If you should pass, I'm not going to be at your funeral. I said, but why, Jay? He said, because a world without you, I don't want to live in. So I'm going to make believe that you're in another room, and one day you'll come out. I said, Jay, I will be in another room, and one day I will come out. And I called up my daughter Shayna, who's like her mom, stoic, tough as nails, gets up 5 in the morning, goes to the gym. She's on it. Never seen her cry. Never seen her cry. And she was hysterical. Hysterical. And she said, Dad, I gotta get off the phone. Then I called up Max, my third, and he said to me, Dad, I think there's something you don't understand. I said, what is it, Maxie? He said, well, you're everybody's rabbi and everybody loves you, but you're my rabbi. So tell me, what am I supposed to do without my rabbi? And then my final call was to Lily. And Lily said, but you're my best friend. What am I supposed to do without my best friend? It was poison. It was gut-wrenching. I can't read the book. I can't. It was hellacious, way worse than anything. And they went in, and I came to 3 days later, and Dobler said, Greg, um, you're not going to believe this, but all your stents were infected, and I couldn't remove the stents. So I had to remove your aorta, and I had to remove your iliac arteries, and part of your jejunum. And you're the only one I know of that's ever had this surgery. I said, well, how many times have you did it where it wasn't successful? He said, I never did it. I didn't even know what to do. It was 12 and a half hours. At one point, I lost all my blood, and he really likes me. I lost 12 units. They couldn't get it in. It kept on coming out, and he thought it's over. And it was about the 5 hour mark. And he looked up at the Phillips screen, expecting to see a flat line and to put the sheet over me. And he was trying to figure out how am I going to go tell his wife and kids in the waiting room. And he told me the story that he looked up and he said, your heart kept beating. And I said, and I wasn't trying to be difficult. I just said, how is that possible? A car doesn't run without gas. He said, it's a phenomenon. He's fairly agnostic. And I said, you know me, Dr. Doble. I've talked to you a lot about God. You know where I stand. I said, a phenomenon and a miracle is synonymous. There's no natural explanation. That's what a phenomenon is. And he said, look, Greg, all I know is somebody up there likes you. And I kid around. So I said, well, do you have an address? Because I think they deserve a thank you note. Who's that somebody up there? Anyway, I survived. I became a medical miracle. When I go to doctors now and I show them the picture of my aorta, their jaw drops because nobody survived that surgery. And the few that kind of survived, they survived for a short term. They were never restored. So if you looked at me, you would say, I can't believe you went through that. But there were a lot of complications with it. I mean, the people in the synagogue think he was really sick. He was in the hospital 50 days and now he's fine. I'm not fine. I have a Jacob limp. I only get 62% blood flow from the grafts to my legs. So if I'm walking, they cease. not cardiovascular weakness, just muscular weakness from not getting oxygenated blood flow. I have to see doctors all the time. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's very traumatic when I go to see a doctor. I'm like, my guardian angel is like chain smoking. It's just rough. Um, and I finally got home. I convinced the doctors to sign me out after 40 days. And I just wanted to die at home. I thought I was going to die. I was pretty convinced I was. And I told them that. I said, looks like I'm going to die. I don't want to die here in the hospital. I just want to go home one more time. Just let me go home one more time. You know, I want to die in my house. And some of these doctors cried and they told me they loved me because my room was like a sanctuary. I gave out 75 books, Don't Die in Your Sins. Nurses were coming in to be prayed for. I was getting words of knowledge about their life. It was crazy. And maybe that kept me going. I don't know. All of a sudden, I get home and I'm laying there. And then I wake up and I think I'm waking up from a sleep. And Bernadette's over me and she says, do you know where you are? And I tried to speak, but I couldn't. I shook my head. She said, Greg, when you got home, you started to throw up blood. I called the ER doctor. He said you were dying. He said that your lungs were filling up with blood and you were in congestive heart failure and you had moments to live. Jeremy threw you over his back, put you in the car. We rushed you to the hospital and he had a life support machine waiting. You've been on life support for 7 days, Greg.
Oh my gosh.
Your heart shut down, your lungs shut down, your kidneys shut down, and they gave you no chance to live. And Bernadette said, take him off the respirator. And they said, Mrs. Hershberg, he'll die. And she goes, he'll die if he stays on. She, they're like, you're not a medical professional. She goes, I know. Take him off the respirator. And they did. And I couldn't move. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't talk. My kids came to visit me and I said, look at your father. Your strong dad always protected you. I can't lift my hands. So broken. And after life support, when I woke up, it was my 65th birthday. And my wife comes in. She has a gift of faith. I have a measure of faith. 99% of people have a measure of faith. Every now and then people get an administrative gift, a spiritual gift, 1 Corinthians 12, gift of faith, where the water's up to here and they're still believing. And that's her. It's not anything she's read. It's not anything she's prayed about. It's just a gift from the giver. And she came in with a watch and it said, now is your time. And she came in with a cupcake and she said, happy birthday. And I'm not proud of this, but I have to share this with you. I said, Bernadette, do you love me? She said, you know I do. I said, I've been a good husband. She said, yes, Greg. I said, what about a father? She said, the best. I said, have I been a good rabbi? Have I been there for everybody? Did I go everywhere God told me to go? If he told me to go to Ethiopia, did I go? Did I hesitate? Did I pray? Okay, then Bern, if you love me, then take the pillow and put it over my face. I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm.
I can't. I can't, Bern. I can't. I don't have anything left. I'm sorry. Nothing's in the tank. I've done all I could do for God, all I could do for you. You guys are set up. I just want to go. And so I'm not doing that, Greg. You're going to walk out of here. I said, I'm not going to walk out of here, Bern. Stop. Stop. But I wheelchaired out of there and got home, and here I am 2 years later talking to you about this situation. And Satan is a bully, and Satan would come in my room at night when I wasn't sleeping at all. I was out of my mind and on 12 different drugs and 14 different machines. And he would whisper the most ugly things to me when I was at my weakest. He would say, Greg, you know you're going to die, right? You're not the first to die. You're not special. You're going to die. And I was like, I didn't know it was him talking sometimes, but like, yeah, feels that way. And then he would say ugly things. Your wife, Bernadette, she'll remarry. Yeah, he's going to be a really good guy. Your kid's going to like him. I just think about all the people today that are getting awful diagnoses. I'm sorry, it's stage four, it's inoperable. Or the lady that's been around for 25 years, breaking the back for her family, and the husband just texts her, I want a divorce. He's trading her in for a newer model. Or the kids that it just, they just don't feel good about themselves and they just want to end their life at 10 years old. I think about all the pain and suffering, and I just want to help, and I hope the book helps people. When I finally got to a point, though, that I said, God, I tried my best for you. I never tried to hurt you. Never. I never tried to hurt you, not purposely. And when I need you most, I'm not sure who you are. And I used to teach, God forgive me, I teach never question God. Never question God. It's a total disrespect. But then you read a book like Lamentations, full of pain and sorrow. You read a story of Job, 42 chapters of pain and sorrow. Half of the Psalms. How long, God? I'm going down to the pit. How long? When will you come and deliver me? God put that in the Bible. So I think we're okay to get angry as long as it's not out of faithlessness. Sometimes it's just out of exhaustion, where you're like, I love you. Please rescue me. And I got to that point. I said, just knock something off, knock down my bedpan, flicker the lights so I know that it hasn't been in vain. Because I got to the point where I'm thinking, is this whole thing? Did I make this whole thing up in my head? Did I believe something that's not true? I started to have doubts. I had a crisis of faith. And I know people have this, but nobody talks about it. The guy in the pulpit has to be perfect. Who told him that? He has to be real because life is real. And that's when I heard the Lord say, Greg, every surgery, every procedure, every CT scan, I was always right next to you. I never left you. And I began to say, I'm sorry. And he said, it's okay, Greg. You're just you. The best of men are men at best. It's just us. Fragile. Life goes on. And God understands. And I used to think he didn't understand because I was so stoic and everything was going so well for me, you know, you know, tall and well built, and I'd exercise. I was doing triathlons, and I had this ministry, and I had this wife, and I had these healthy kids that loved their dad, and I looked like, hey. And then it all started to unravel, little by little, until there was almost nothing left of me. And I don't even know who I am anymore. My kids say, Dad, you've changed so much. You're so calm and so sedate and so mellow. You used to be so. I said, yeah, I know. I don't even recognize myself anymore. I'm not sure who I am, but I know who God is. Yeah. It's not about surviving the impossible, although it was. It's more about a God who doesn't leave, because that's what people feel.
This is his book At Death's Door. Greg, where can they get this book and find out more about you?
Um, they can get it at Aneko Press, which is the publisher. It's Aneko and Press, and he's a kid from Wisconsin who is a diehard evangelist. He used to send books for free all the time. It used to be Life Sentence Publishing and at Amazon. It's released July 7th. It really is. I got to be honest with you. This is my sixth book, and I didn't feel this way about the other ones. I just didn't. This is an intense, raw, real, riveting story. God did a lot of work in this thing because I don't have the capacity to write some of those words that were written. And just take a box of tissues while you're reading it, I promise. There's no way that God will not emote that kind of emotion because it's real. And I think just about anybody can totally relate to it, believer and non-believer alike.
And so, what would you like to leave my audience with today?
I just want people to know that sometimes, sadly enough, the church, we come in with chains, and the best we can do in our houses of worship is shine up the chains. The chains need to be broken, and that's what God can do, and that's what the Holy Spirit can do. I really believe people need to develop a very good, intimate relationship by spending quality time with the Lord and talk to Him. Don't report his word back to him. He wrote it. He doesn't need that. Don't try to impress him with, "Oh Lord, take these dry bones." Talk to your father. Tell your father everything you want to tell him because I got a news flash for you. He knows anyway.
For more stories like this, be sure to like and subscribe and come back here. Remember, you have been won by the sun. Shalom.